Hey everyone, welcome to my podcast. Today, it's just me. No guest, no fancy edits, just an honest reflection on the past year. This time of year always makes me pause and think. I love that quiet space between wrapping up one year and planning for the next. I want to share what this year has meant to me, the highs, the lows, and what I'm looking forward to in 2025. Before I dive into 2024, I want to step back for a moment and talk about 2023 because it was such a pivotal year for me. 2023, I haven't really talked about it much, but looking back, I can honestly say it was one of the most challenging years of my life. I remember someone describing my life that year as a forest after a bushfire. And if you know anything about bushfires, you know they can feel devastating. But that person said something to me that stuck. He said, sometimes it's necessary. That's why it's a natural disaster, right? It clears out the old so new trees can grow. At that time, it felt like everything was burning down around me. It was the year I had to let go of so much. Dreams I'd been holding on to, the version of my life I thought I wanted, and even some of my own expectations of who I was supposed to be. And honestly, I was wearing a face all the time. You know that face? The one you put on when you smile and say, I'm fine, even though you're anything but. It was exhausting. Pretending everything was okay when inside I felt like I was falling apart. There were moments when I genuinely thought about walking away from it all because it just felt too hard. But I didn't realize at the time was that the bushfire wasn't the end. It was the beginning. It cleared space for new things to grow. And that's what made 2024 so meaningful. It was the year I started planting new trees. So let's talk about those new trees. Because 2024 was a year filled with growth, milestones, and so many moments that made me proud. One of the first highlights of the year was rebranding R&K to Ride and Keystone. That might not sound like a huge deal to some, but for me, it was a defining moment. The new name reflects so much of what the company stands for: purpose, inclusivity, and empowerment. What surprised me most was how much support I received. Seeing people rally behind a new vision reminded me why I started this journey in the first place. And then, the awards. I'm still pinching myself. I was honored to be recognized with the 40 Under 40 award and the Stevie Award for Women of the Year in Franchising. Those moments weren't just about trophies or titles. They were about the validation of all the hard work, late nights, and big dreams that went into building my businesses. And then, there's Harvard. Attending Harvard has been one of the most pivotal points of my life. It changed my perspectives, opened doors for opportunities, and most importantly, showed me my value. It was like an awakening, a reminder of who I am and what I'm capable of. And now that I've graduated, it feels so surreal and humbling. When I think about the people I've met, the experiences I've had, and the lessons I've learned during my time there, I feel deeply grateful. It's a full circle moment, and it's something I'll carry with me forever. And because I love a challenge, I also jumped into an MIT program, which I'll be finishing just before the year ends. Another major milestone was starting my startup. It's still in its early stages, but there's something so exciting about building something from scratch again. It feels like the beginning of a new chapter. On a personal note, this year was about pushing my physical limits. I ran my 10th marathon in Sydney and competed in a high rocks competition. If you've done either, you know how much they test your endurance. For me, they were about proving to myself that I could still set big goals and crush them. But if I'm being honest, the best part of this year wasn't about me. It was about my kids. They've had an amazing year. They've been healthy, happy, and thriving. They've built a wonderful relationship with their dad, and seeing them so full of joy has been the most fulfilling part of 2024. Starting this podcast was another big win. It's been such a joy to share my journey with all of you, and hearing your feedback has been a gift. Now, no year is without its challenges, and 2024 was no different. While I can't point to any massive low moments, thank God, there were definitely days when I felt stressed, doubted myself, and asked, am I making the right decisions? Am I doing enough? This was my first full year as a single mom. And while I embraced that role, it hasn't been always easy. I was so scared. Balancing work, parenting, and personal growth, it's a lot. There were moments when it felt so overwhelming. None of the highs I talked about earlier happened because of the lows. No. They happened alongside them. And that's an important distinction. Life isn't a straight line of good or bad. It's messy, and often the challenges and victories coexist. One thing I'm especially grateful for this year is the positive relationship I've been able to build with my husband, the father of my kids. Even though we've gone through a major transition, we've worked hard to create something that works for our family. And that's something I'll always treasure. If there's one big takeaway from the past 2 years, it's this. Sometimes you have to let go to grow. 2023 felt like a bushfire. It cleared out the old. And 2024, that's when the new trees started growing. Those lessons of letting go, embracing change, and leaning into growth are ones I'll carry with me into 2025 and beyond. As I look toward 2025, I feel a mix of excitement and determination. One of my biggest goals is to launch the MVP for my startup. This project has been a labor of love, and I can't wait to see it come to life. I'm also hoping to find the perfect co-founder, someone who shares my vision and brings their own strengths to the table. On a personal level, I'm looking forward to continuing to build a positive relationship with the father of my kids and deepening my connections with the people in my life. Relationships are such a big part of who I am, and I want to nurture them even more next year. And speaking of milestones, my eldest is starting high school next year, which feels huge. I'm so excited to watch my kids take their next steps in their journeys. I'm also focused on expanding Ride and Keystone. There's so much potential to grow and make an even bigger impact, and I'm ready to lean into that. Above all, I want 2025 to be the year I step out of my comfort zone and take bold moves. This year taught me that big growth happens when you embrace the unknown, and I'm ready to dive in. Before I wrap up, I want to share something that has been on my mind. Last year, when 2023 was about to end, I was telling myself, I just don't want to see what 2024 or 2025 will be like. I just want to skip to 2030 and move on from there. I was so scared, and I didn't know if I could face or survive the coming years. But fast forward to today and look at where I am now. It's a reminder that we're so much stronger than we think. Even when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's there. And when you take it one day at a time, amazing things can happen. This podcast is part of something very close to my heart. It's a passion project I created to empower and inspire women through real stories, honest reflections, and shared lessons. My hope is that through these conversations, we all feel a little more connected, a little more understood, and a lot more empowered. So there it is, my reflections on 2024 with a little bit of 2023 sprinkled in. It's been a journey of growth, resilience, and connection. If you've had a tough year, I hope you find comfort in knowing that it's okay to let go sometimes. Like that bushfire analogy, clearing out the old makes space for new growth. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. Whether your year has been filled with highs, lows, or a mix of both, I hope you take a moment to reflect on how far you've come. Here's to a new year, new opportunities, and new adventures. Until next time, take care, keep growing, and remember, You've got this.